好，同志们，我们都在荒荒烈烈的站起来，站起来。Welcome to the 279th edition of China Now with your gang of two, Nan Su, who is a senior investigative reporter for Epoch Times, and Michael Olson, who was dissuaded from being a China hand by the great helmsman himself. That would be Chairman Mao. Each week, Nansu and I look out across the broad expanse of the Pacific Ocean from our home port here at SantaCruzVoice.com, and we ask, China now, friend or foe, war or peace? Ni hao, Nansu.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you are.
And you could be just about anywhere in the world these days. Well, Nansu, this just in. The on again, off again Trump Z summit is on again. That, according to the White House, that just announced that the long awaited face to face of Donald Trump and Xi Jinping has been rescheduled for mid May. Now, do you think this rescheduling of the face to face means that Trump is feeling optimistic about the progress of the war in Iran?
Absolutely. And now I'm not sure if you noticed that Beijing never say anything. Originally it was scheduled on March 31st to April 2nd. Now Beijing never officially responded, and now this time again, White House made an announcement of May 14 and 15. Now 1 day shorter now. Last time was 3 days. This time 2 days. Now, okay. So, but Beijing have not been responded. I think Beijing, it's very feel very difficult because Trump is absolutely got the upper hand, uh, all the good cars, you know. Now I'm not sure you know that the crude oil price in Asia,
No. It's $100, over $100 here
it's $170 per barrel.
in Asia.
In Asia, it's not an international market price. You have international market price, but you're just not going to get it, right? So
Ah,
you have to increase a lot because most of the Middle Asia, most of the Asian countries, their oil are from the Middle East.
yes.
So now they're in deep trouble. Now China imported about 12 million barrels a day, an increase of 80, $90 per barrel. That's a price increasing. That means China have to spend about around $100 million a day, comparing, $100 million more a day comparing, without a war. So China is it's
So what you're saying is that though oil is fungible, which means it's open to trade and barter, so theoretically it should be a free market kind of thing. It's harder to buy in
It
Asia.
just, yeah, there was a price, but there was there's nothing to sell you. You can't buy anything with
Right.
the international market price. It's just it's just all the transportation gets very expensive, and also that the insurance, all the things that add up.
Well,
Now,
the other thing that I'm wondering about President or General Secretary Xi Jinping is that he hasn't been very visible lately. He's been kind of laying low, has not been doing any traveling. So I wonder if he isn't still feeling a little bit nervous about appearing in public and to be targetable, as it were.
decapitated.
So afraid of being decapitated. Now,
No, he did actually 2 days ago went to that
Chang
uh,
An,
Chang An, the city that the second the capital, is the capital city of China. In case if
uh-huh.
anything happened to Beijing, right? That's a city built half on the ground. It's for that purpose. So I think he's worried about where he's going to go if there is a war and there is a, he's worried about the 5,000 pounds bunker buster from.
So we should give a little background on Chang An because it is Xi Jinping's personal project. When it gets right down to it, he kind of ordered that it be built, what, about a decade ago,
Yeah.
and with the purpose of moving non-essential government agencies like universities and think tanks and whatnot out of Beijing to the sticks, as it were, out to
Yeah,
countryside.
it's in Hebei province, which is the province that's around the capital city of Beijing of China. So the Xiong'an it's located in the west south the direction of Beijing. Uh, I forgot the distance.
Is it
But
also not
it's not a very far. It's not very far.
Is it also not located in the floodplain of the Yellow River?
Yeah, it's in the floodplain. Uh,
And you say that Xiang'an was built half underground
yeah, it's half on the ground.
on the floodplain.
Yeah, yes, it's true. I don't know why he chose to do that. It used to be it used to be it used to be it's a low it's a very low what if you're talking about the sea level, it's a very
Right.
low sea level. It used to be that when it comes to, when the rivers are flooded, that's where the water it's going to go. But because China has been dry in the for many years, a lot of those places kind of like uh, uh dry all the time right now. It's
Right.
like all like
So it's a historical floodplain that's been dry.
that's right.
So they
It's like
felt
more or
secure enough
less
to,
if you go to United States, there's many of those places called wilds, a wildlife reserve, that kind
reserves.
of
Yeah.
you have, and there's nobody go there to live. It's just it's just the because the water comes and goes, and so that's how he, I don't know, for whatever the reason he chose that place. Maybe it's easier because not a lot of population living there, and then he doesn't have to make a lot of effort to relocate people. I don't know if
No.
what was and then there was a lot of feng shui, that kind of a discussion going around. Some places say that's a some places say that's a some people say that's a good place, and some people say that's a very bad place. It's debatable. I'm not the expert of that area, so I'm not going to talk about why is the reason, but he
But he
did
did go
choose the
there,
place.
and
Yeah.
he did go there and kind of fly his own personal flag too, because evidently a lot of people, a lot of pundits and whatnot have been looking at Xiang'an and saying, nobody's moving there. This is not working so well because
No,
you
it's not because nobody wants to move there because there's no job around, right? So he is trying to relocate a lot of the like central government agencies and the big universities currently located in Beijing and get them out of Beijing and to Xiong'an. Now the problem is you have yeah, that maybe say maybe your job it's for the central government agency or some of those big universities. You can go there, but what about your children, your wife, your spouse? Their jobs in the big city. Then how do you? So nobody, you have it met a lot tremendous amount of resistance. Nobody want to do that, right?
So Xi Jinping went there and said, "Hey, this is right. What we did is right, and everybody should own up to the fact that this is what it is, and you have to move here." And nobody wants to move there. Now,
That's
the
right.
interesting thing is that he went there with two top officials from the Chinese Communist Party. One, of course, was the uh, Li Qiang, the premier Li Qiang, and the other was Xi's chief of staff, Tsai Chi. Now, Tsai Chi, to me, has become kind of like the muscle man for Xi Jinping in the Chinese Communist Party. He seems to be the one that is behind the scenes making sure everything works. And whoever Xi Jinping wants to fire, he fires them. I'm 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 thinking he must be that man. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, he is. So basically, wherever Xi Jinping goes, Chai Chi will follow. He's pretty much always there,
Always there.
almost always there. So only yet there is like a few scenarios, when Xi Jinping shows up and Chai Chi is not there, then usually that there's something else going on, pretty big. So yeah, so they're all there, all these important people. They're
But there's only two of them left. Well, there's not many important people left
mm.
in the upper ranks of the Chinese Communist Party because Xi Jinping has gotten rid of pretty much everybody. And one of them,
Yeah, but you do see that the Trump make announcement when or how he's going to Beijing based on his own schedule and he based on his own convenience. So basically, I think Trump has got all the good cards in his hand now, especially the situation in the Middle East, and then so Beijing is kind of like just wait it out and see what's
yeah.
going on, and then they because I think Xi Jinping has a lot of unsettled feelings about the oil price.
Well, it must be hitting him hard because he was living on very cheap oil,
That it's
both
correct.
from
You
Venezuela and
think
from Iran, and
right?
also from Russia.
Yeah.
So he still has the Russian oil, which is 80% or so of his supply, but the top 20% from Iran and Venezuela have disappeared.
Hey, even Russia's oil price goes up right now because the international market price goes up, right? So that the Russia is not going to, it's not as cheap as it was before. So Xi
So
Jinping has,
do you think Russia's not giving China a good deal?
yeah, it's giving a good deal, but the price goes up, right?
Right.
So Xi Jinping Xi Jinping is counting his money now, and then he's counting. See, China only have 115 days of strategic oil reserve. So they already start send out their commercial oil reserve, not touching the strategic oil part of the reserve yet, but pretty soon. So if this war, like nowadays, I see those many people, important people talking about the war may not end in 6 weeks, maybe like a few more months, maybe throughout the summer. Now that really put Xi Jinping in trouble.
Well, it does. And it's interesting to note that President Trump has asked Xi Jinping to help unblock the Straits of Hormuz with the Chinese naval vessels. Now,
Well,
that
he
would,
purposely did that, right? And because Xi, Xi Jinping, uh, if Xi Jinping does that, he will be uh he will it's put in he put Xi Jinping in a very odd position, right?
he'll lose face.
Yeah, but nobody's happy, right? Iran is going to have, it's not going to be happy, and then even China is there. I don't think anybody actually look at him happy because he is the one. He has been supporting Iranian leaders, right?
Yeah. Well, our good friend Anders Kors wrote an op-ed in the Epoch Times about how Trump could possibly unblock the Hormuz Strait. So maybe we can pick that up in the second hour because it really is the focal point of our fight with of our undeclared war with China is the fight that's currently going on in Iran. And I think that's really the focal point of everything. So, but things are not going well with Xi Jinping right now. And one incident that occurred this past week that caught my attention was that the J-20, the Mighty Dragon stealth fighter that the CCP built, blew up in flight. And it was being flown at the time by a female pilot, so it made a lot of news. But Xi evidently watched the video of this J-20 blowing up in flight and realized that his entire investment in the J-20 stealth fighter was at risk. So what did he do? He fired the father of that J-20 stealth fighter, the principal designer, the man who's been shepherding it through the arms industry in China, and disappeared him, which is
Well, the story that public talking about was that he was charged with crimes of corruption. He put a lot of money into his pocket. Now the problem is now there's a lot of rumors in China. And, I'm able to not able to verify if it's true, but there's a lot of news talking about the so-called fifth generation J-20.
yeah.
Uh, it it's not actually a stealth plan. So that's what the problem. It was faked. Now that it can be easily detected. Now then if that's true, there's a lot of because a lot of discussions openly going around. I usually don't go with those rumors that cannot be verified. But even some of the state-owned media actually talk about, the J-20. It's not a stealth plan. So that means what? That means a lot more issues, right? Because those people who work in the Rocky Force, in the Air Force, they should know if this one is a stealth plan because
They should
they
know
have
it's
the
yes.
radar, right? They can see it, but then they still bar this thing as the fifth generation stealth plan. That's that means what? That means there was a lot more people actually as a part of this corruption. So how did that happen if those rumors are true?
Well, and it's also the stealth fighter, the fifth generation stealth fighter. The failure of that system also relates to the brand new aircraft carrier that Xi Jinping just put to sea, which the Fujian, which and the stealth fighter evidently did not have enough power to take off from that stealth from the Fujian, even with its new electromagnetic catapult system. So the reason that they put a canards, which are the winglets in front of the airplane on the J-20, is to give it more lift so that it could take off from the aircraft carrier with more bombs. But those canards are what make the stealth fighter visible via radar and therefore seeable. So not only does it kind of foul up the notion that China has a stealth fighter, a fifth generation stealth fighter to contend with the F-35 on America's side, but the aircraft carrier, the Fujian, it does not have enough deck space either to make it an effective launch platform for the J-20. So it has this entire weapon system of the aircraft carrier and the stealth fighter is being called into question. And that's perhaps why the designer of the J-20 was thrown in the clink or whatever happened to him for corruption. Because that's it, the pretty much the charge for everything, isn't it? In the CCP is corruption. Because
they actually saying he put a lot of money in his pocket. That's
yeah.
what the charge was. So, well, but anyway, I will be interesting to see how they're going to settle the case if J-20 it's indeed not a stealth plan.
Well, yeah,
There will be a lot of them, a lot more generals, to be purged.
I would suspect so. And they started with the principal designer. But to me,
Right.
that was a tacit admission of the failure of the system. Because if it was indeed a stealth fighter, they would still hold this person up as being a hero of the Chinese PLA for having designed a successful fifth generation stealth fighter. But that they fired him is a tacit admission of failure. And for them to do that, to make a tacit admission of failure, is losing a lot of face, losing a lot of money, and losing a lot of strategic advantage in the international arms marketplace too. So it's a major, major
Well,
downfall.
see that maybe that's why China has never sold the J-20 to other countries. Because if they sold this thing to other countries, the people will know, right? It's not a
Sure.
stealth plan. So they never sold the J-20 to other countries. That's their secret weapon.
Yeah. Now, as I understand it, the J-20 was built on the platform of the Russian jet too, and
Yeah,
that's
something like that.
something like that. So that was the change. But at any rate, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to pick up more news from around China. China's gas lines increasing. How much is oil? What did you say? $175 a barrel?
Yeah, some were around $170. That's the true price that you're going to get those oil in Asia nowadays.
Good. And then a story about the CCP squashing the ethnic minorities. That's the story. And the CIA's digital campaign to recruit Chinese spies, and how the Iran attack is exposing the CCP's major military failures, as we just spoke of on. So this is China Now, Nansu and Michael Olson, and you. Price of petroleum going up to $175 a barrel in Asia, $100 here in the rest of the world, I guess. But a lot of that oil is coming out of the Persian Gulf. And boy, it has a direct impact on everybody who uses oil, which is everybody. When people complain about oil, I always say oil is what's for breakfast and lunch and dinner. It's how we get pretty much everything. And so it's having a direct impact on China now. Evidently, gas lines in China. It will have a direct impact on everyday people in China, but on how everyday people in China will be looking at the Chinese Communist Party. Will it not?
Oh, well, people nowadays have a lot of your energy is everything, right? It doesn't
Everything.
matter where we're in. The whole world is the same and now.
For
Uh,
breakfast.
right. It's for everything. It's for you don't have energy, you don't have anything, right? So all this stealth plane will not fly. If even it's true stealth
That's
plane.
right. I guess that's the point where I wanted to go, Nansu, because China has been building this incredible fleet of Navy ships and Air Force. Uh, maybe not so much tanks and whatnot for land warfare, but for at least it's building a defensive system built a lot on oil. And as the price of oil goes up, like it is, like it has been, uh, boy, it's going to have a direct impact on China's ability to manage that huge military that it's building.
It's true. So, but anyway, we can see that the Middle East, the ongoing war, we are paying too much attention to the things that we can see, like with our gas price increase, uh, like what 50 cents or 70 cents per gallon. Uh, and by the way, the California start pumping oil now. Did you know that?
Stop pumping oil?
Start
Oh,
pumping.
we are pumping oil again.
Yeah, because
Wow.
the Fed gave, I think the Trump administration gave some sort of order, so they reopened the pipeline, and the pipeline, it's been shut down in the what late 70s or maybe early 80s, and it's not being used for a long, long time. So we got about like what 50,000 barrels a day, something like that. And our governor doesn't like it. Uh, I read articles. He's going to file a lawsuit, probably. I'm not sure if he's going to, but the articles talking about they're going to go to the court
Well, I
because
wrote,
the environmental impact,
yeah,
something.
I read also that California is getting a substantial amount of its oil from Iraq. If such is the case, that would be oil coming out of the Persian Gulf, would it not?
It's true.
So
Why do we get oil from Iraq? I mean, we have American oil.
in California,
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. Why do we go, we have something made in America. Why do we go to Iraq to get oil? I don't understand that thing.
well, you know what? It's illustrative of our mentality where we don't like things that are dirty, like industry. So we ship them to China or someplace else where we can't see
It's a
how dirty it
job,
is.
man. It's a
Yes.
job. That's the problem, right? We It's just all because of, see, our air is very clean here. And then it's just because we look at these things, we have this idea of wherever we actually deindustrialize, and we deindustrialize ourselves and make China industrialized. That's the worst thing we could have done to ourselves, to
And
our,
we did
our
it to
future
ourselves.
generations.
And we did it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And now California is getting oil from Iraq. Although
Jeez.
I don't think it's getting oil from Iraq right now because there's no oil coming out of the Persian Gulf right now.
Right.
So I don't know. The madness, I guess, just sometimes gets to me. When I was a child, in a car full of Olson kids, we used to go out into the country to visit the grandparents' farm, and we drive by a refinery in a little town of Laurel, Montana. And the refinery always smelled like some kind of sulfur or some kind of chemical. And it would, all of us kids would always kind of gag and make a lot of fun of the smell. And I remember my father saying, "Listen here, kids. What you smell is money. It is money and it is jobs." And all of us kids would kind of shut up at that. But I never forgot that. And it's true. It is money. And we have to learn how to live with the dirtiness, keep it clean as possible, as we have learned to do, and somehow bring our oil supply back to California from Iraq, which doesn't make any sense at all in the world. Well, so it goes with our relationship with the world. At any rate, a couple more stories here to cover on China before we move to onto um, the big story, which of course is Iran and China and the United States and Russia and the rest of the world. CCP squashes the ethnics. Evidently, in the two sessions, the Chinese Communist Party has made moves to outlaw ethnic thinking. Have you followed that one at all, Nansu?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Well, I guess it goes in line with the same principle of outlawing religion. So the CCP sees these ethnics as making moves to stand out on their own, to be their own people. And just as they make moves to quash those who practice Falun Gong or Buddhism or Christianity or anything else, and they make moves to quash that effort to be independent in any way. And so I just made notice of that fact, and because there are a lot of ethnic minorities in China, and when you have ethnic minorities, you have the possibility of them forming their own desires, their own directions, which would not necessarily be those of the Chinese Communist Party. So there you go. That's the story. Watch how the Chinese Communist Party is trying to squash those who think differently, always. Against the law, right? Thinking differently.
It's not against the law. It's against the will of the CCP. I mean, by the China's constitution actually guarantee more freedom to Chinese people than American constitution does to American people. If you really read it, there's a lot of constitution experts, they're doing the research. American constitution experts, they read Chinese constitution. It's to their surprise, they found out actually Chinese constitution guarantee more freedom to Chinese people, but in reality, that's just how it actually did. So, you
Well,
know,
what is the Chinese Constitution? Is it the CCP's Chinese Constitution, or is it
yes, it's a CCP's Chinese constitution on paper.
okay?
American experts on constitution, if they actually do the Chinese constitution on paper, that actually guarantees more freedom to Chinese people than American Constitution does to American people. But that's not what's the reality. The reality is, see, they have a lot of freedom on paper, but they also have something that the American Constitution doesn't have. So it's written, its very first chapter of Chinese Constitution, that it says the priority of the Chinese Constitution is to secure the leadership of the CCP. So once they have that items, it doesn't matter the rest of the items, what kind of a freedom they guarantee to you, right? So
Okay.
when you have trouble with your neighbor, you probably can hire a lawyer. But if you have having problem with the government, then all the promise, all of the freedom, just got thrown out the window.
So once you read the first condition, which is to support the Chinese Communist Party, then disregard everything else below that, right? Because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Now,
Yeah.
here in the United States, of course, we have three branches of the government that kind of work to control each other. Is there any such thing in the Chinese Communist Party that kind of restricts the power of any one group or person? or is it just all top down from Xi Jinping?
Well, the constitution wise, if you read it on paper, they do have their, judicial branch, the executive branch, they have their legislative branch, but it doesn't matter, right? The legislative branch, which is the People's Congress, that's just a rubber stamp organization. The judicial branch, same way, because it's really that the Communist Party leadership is behind everything, right? Behind all these three branches, there's only one single Communist Party. That's
And there's
their power
nothing,
is
and there's
over on every branch. So they are going to act the same way, because the decision maker, they don't have a decision making power. They are all listen to the Communist Party.
and so everybody looks to one person, and that would be Xi Jinping, and there is no balance to his authority, none.
That's correct.
If you try, you're going to find yourselves in big trouble, and which is generally what happens there, I guess. So I wanted to talk about a very interesting campaign by the America's Central Intelligence Agency to recruit CCP spies. And it seems to be having a great effect mostly on agitating the CCP because you have a an adversary that is advertising on social media for and telling people on how you can contact the United States safely and arrange to transfer information or whatnot. Coupled with this, there seems to be an uptick in high-ranking CCP officials disappearing or going overseas and not coming back. Um, so, do you think this is having an impact on the Chinese Communist Party, the effort by the CIA to actually recruit spies and operatives?
Well, I hope they do. That we need a lot more intelligent information from China, from the CCP, from the black box, right?
Right.
Now, but CCP apparently has been really worried about that. The Communist Party officials, government officials, as well as military officials, they even they retired, say they go out of country, and then they send their children to America, to the Western world to study, right? So they are now ever. I think it's just probably last year they really start enforcing some sort of regulations. uh Again, that's how law in China does, right? The CCP, they adopt something, they're just going to go enforce it. It doesn't matter wherever, how, wherever the item, how it was written, your freedom, your rights, written in the constitution. It really doesn't matter. So they make some laws. So basically they say, if you are government official, probably if, not as small potatoes, like that you're just a staff member or something, like maybe from some sort of a director level, or there are certain levels, they once you reach a certain level, then you cannot have your children living outside of China. Now,
Oh,
if you do, then you just have to make a decision. Either call your children back to the country, or you leave your current position. So there are several very high-ranking official last year and this year left their own post. It was just that
just retire.
Well, yeah, they will be give them some not
Videos.
important
Yeah.
position, like a research fellow in some sort of research institution, that kind of a thing. Or maybe they will let you be a member of People's Congress, you know. So if your children refuse to come back, so that's what it is. You just, that last year, that's it was nominal. Um, uh, there's several prominent Communist Party official left their own post just because of that reason.
Now, I've seen a lot of stories indicating that the Trump administration might be coming down on Chinese students studying in America for fear of espionage, I guess.
I
You
guess
know,
it is a concern. So I think that maybe in the future we can do something else. We can, we I think we still want the Chinese student to come to United States, but maybe don't let them study in the very advanced technology area.
maybe we could have them study environmental studies or women's studies or something
Or
like
maybe
that.
maybe study Western philosophy or
There you
something.
go.
Yeah, so
Or
so that to so that will solve the problem of espionage or potentially,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
There you go. And then there's one more very fascinating observation that I've been following, and that is the fact that Xi Jinping has ordered the video cameras around Chang'an to be removed, and indicating that maybe he was afraid that their camera system has been hacked, like Venezuela's was hacked and like Iran's was hacked. So,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that
so,
may be the concern.
so they're removing the video surveillance system that has been set up all around China to track everybody all the time, everywhere. And of course, they don't want to know anybody to know who's coming and going at Chang'an then either. Now, it must be interesting in Chang'an these days, given the decapitation strikes in Venezuela and in Iran, because where you have a concentration of power of political people in one place, um, that would make a decapitation process pretty a possibility, because you have the power in one place. And that is what decapitation is all about, right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I think whatever what uh, that was going on in Venezuela, as well as especially in Iran, it really make Xi Jinping worry now.
Because everything he's it.
Yeah,
He's it. So he is the decision maker. He is the one who plots everything, and he's it. So he's right there in Zhangnanhai. Hasn't been going anywhere uh, to speak of, except for the Chang'an visit. So there it is. So I guess we have a few minutes left here, but we want to position where we want to go next hour, which I think is really a conversation about the war in Iran and where it's going. Do you feel good about the direction of the war, Nancy?
yes, I do.
You do?
And I think we need to finish this war, and then we need to secure now, especially this time. The people often comparing what's going on now with with what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. No, this time's totally different. We have the European airlines supporting us now. They're stepping forward finally. And also we have UAE, Kuwait, Saudi, and Qatar, and then Bahrain, Oman, all these countries now they're pretty much on our side now. It's interesting you see what's going on. Iranian regime has been shooting a lot more missiles to UAE than they did to Israel. So, they got a like a six by now, like 60% of the missiles launched by the Iranian regime is to UAE, and then and only like 20% to Israel, 20% to other Gulf countries. So that's very interesting. That's why they they I think they're doing us a big favor. So they basically make everybody mad. So now you have all the Gulf countries and all the European airlines realizing that the rocket they shoot to Iranian regime shoot to Diego Garcia Island, that's like 2,500 miles from Iran, which is more, it's a longer distance than the distance from Iran to London, which basically they can that basically that covers the entire Europe, every capital city. You're talking about decapitate,
So
decapitate.
it really is a
Yeah, they have the power, and plus they're just weeks before they possess the nuclear weapon, a nuclear warhead. Now think
do
about
you
that. How
think
dangerous is that?
looking at that and thinking about that, do you think Trump had a choice
No, I don't think so.
about
I
invading,
mean, he can stick his hand into the sand, but I don't see,
as have the previous seven presidents? They all stuck their head in the sand.
well, it's a little different. I wouldn't go that far. Because none of the previous presidents facing the situation faced by Trump, because Trump really facing the situation that Iran is just weeks, or maybe say longer, like a few months before they truly
So
have
it
the
was
nuclear.
inevitable
Yeah.
now that
Now, see, we have been, putting these things aside for so long, and then the things it comes to the point that we have to add. We have to take action. If we don't take action, uh, then Iran becomes the next North Korea. But North Korea is not a problem, right? Because
why
North
isn't North Korea a problem?
Well, now the Iranian regime is a lot more serious than North Korea.
Yes.
See, Kim Jong Un, he have a plane loads of luxury goods from Europe, but he want to live in a good life. He want to he not like Iranian religious leaders. They want to they want to die with you together,
There it
right? So
is. Yeah.
because they die, you die, you go to hell. They die, they believe to go to heaven. So so it's totally different philosophy. Once the Iranian regime, these people they get their fingers to the nuclear weapon. It changed the basically the rule of the game. So you don't play the same game anymore, right? So you cannot allow them to have nuclear weapon. That's what it is. North
And it was
Korea
pretty
will
much a
be.
consensus by almost every nation in the world that because of the number of people that are starting to back the United States in the Persian Gulf, and maybe it was something that everybody in the world believes that we cannot allow these people to have the bomb. And yet China and Pakistan have and North Korea have made it pretty much possible for Iran to have the bomb, and Iran is poised to have it. So Trump looked at this situation, which was, as you say, different than the situation of any other U.S. president, and all the
Yeah,
rest of them
all the
could,
other previous presidents, they're not facing the situation
yeah,
that
they could just kick the can down the road, right?
yeah, yeah, because the other U.S. What happened to other U.S. president was that uh, Iranian regime didn't have this like 60%
Rich,
enriched
yeah, they didn't
uranium,
have the
right?
materials.
They
Well, this
don't
was
have it, right? So you can talk to them, whatever you do with them, yeah, however we have the luxury to wait, but now we just don't have the luxury anymore.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. That's our first hour of China Now. When we come back, we're going to pick up the story of the Persian Gulf and how to get out of it. It's going to be a real interesting conversation, so we hope you'll stay tuned. Ride with us through the Persian Gulf. Stay tuned.